Hey guys, so did you miss the JIT baby shower this weekend? How does the Jezebel Institute of Treachery throw down a JIT themed baby shower? Well, you get a football player, you get a manipulated ultrasound of a baby, some blackmail, and no bra but yes to rope cuffs, dress code at the courthouse. If you don't know who Son Heung-min is, look him up, watch some football or soccer as Americans call it. Son Heung-min is the star of South Korea when it comes to football/soccer, and he is the Tottenham captain. So Tottenham is one of the best football clubs. So, over in Europe, it's not about that pigskin American football. No, none of that. It is actually like kicking and running around that black and white ball. And Son Heung-min has been a star for years. And so this is why it's a bit like a real K-drama, a little bit of a scandal. And so two people got arrested. And they had to also go to court after their police investigation. It's one woman in her 20s and her boyfriend, a man in her 40s, on suspicion of extortion and attempted extortion and blackmail involving hundreds of thousands of dollars. And yes, if an ultrasound with the sonogram is involved, you know what kind of relations are involved in this drama. So it looks like that Son Heung-min actually did have relations with this 20-something-year-old woman. This is still under investigation. Innocent until proven guilty. But it has so much of the room salon girl secret vibes to it. Not that she is one of these people, but it has that milieu, especially when it comes to extortion and blackmail and regarding, certain relationships of an intimate nature. We don't know if she actually had a long-term relationship with Son Heung-min or if this was a serious relationship or where it emanated from. But judging on her actions and then also the actions of her new boyfriend, it really then gives me the vibes that this is not a very reputable pair. So the basic scheme goes like this. Ms. Yang, the lady in her 20s, already has been paid 300 million won. So in some essence, there is some admission on Son Heung-min's side that something happened and they wanted to keep it quiet. She already received 300 million won. Why? Last June, she sent Son Heung-min a sonogram, which is essentially the picture of your ultrasound with a baby in it, and saying that that's your baby, you're the baby daddy. And what had happened was that she said, well, I'm going to expose this, but then Mr. Son decided to give us some money and make her sign some sort of agreement to keep things quiet. And so, since last summer, it looked like everything had been kumbaya. However, during the interim, Ms. Yang started to date this 40-something-year-old man, and he had found out about the situation. Some people are saying that he was looking, through her phone, says something right there, and had found the picture of this agreement and then was just like, hey, we got to go get some more. And so he himself contacted Son Heung-min and asked for about $50,000 more in an extortion, and he was gonna threaten to release it to the media. And it looked like he kind of released it to the media because, like, we know about it. And so that was about 70 million won. However, Son Heung-min was now just like, no, ain't gonna pay, and I'm gonna go to the police. And so this is where we're at. And I think this is a pretty good move for Son Heung-min to just come out with it, because he is saying through his agency that he is the victim here, and that they're going to respond to this type of false extortion money shakedown, and that the investigation is underway. And they also wanted to apologize to the fans for being involved in such a scandalous issue. But they do say that the pair is blackmailing them with false claims. Now, the false part of those claims essentially could be, whose baby was it? And the reason why I'm saying that this does have the vibes of Secrets of a Room Salon Girl, check out those videos, is that you can have one pregnancy, even if it's, let's say it's real. Like, you got a real pregnancy, like this girl really did get pregnant. And then, but what she can do is she can do a money shakedown with multiple baby daddies that she might have met with during that time, and say, you're the father, you're the father, you're the father, you're the father, and then see how much hush money she can, get to put in her hush puppy. Now, initially, Son Heung-min said, like, I think that sonogram was manipulated or fake. Maybe she wasn't even pregnant to begin with. Well, the police said they went to the hospital and they verified that, yes, she was pregnant, and yes, she did decide to eliminate, and be without child. Are you allowed to say abortion on YouTube? I don't know. But it's not clear who the baby's father is, so the paternity issue. However, what is clear is that there is a contract. There is a claim that money had exchanged hands, and usually money can be tracked relatively easily. And there was a documented extortion attempt by the 40-something-year-old new boyfriend to Son Heung-min. Son Heung-min himself is 32, captain of the British soccer team Tottenham Hotspur, and he's widely considered to be one of the greatest soccer players, football players, especially from Asia, of all time. He looks like a little prince running around that field. He has a nice smile. He's very clean cut. He does advertisements really well. So this guy is very, very high profile. And so it's a bit unfortunate that he got entangled, probably by his own doing in some ways, into this mess. His father is known to be really strict and really stern, and a big part of why he's so successful. However, this looks like this kind of situations will situation. And another notch on his belt, I mean, not the ultrasound variety, but on the football variety, he was the first Asian player to win the Premier League's Golden Boot. Apparently that's a big deal in football, and I think that really means that you've scored the most goals in a certain time frame. So the two were arrested because the judge deemed them a flight risk, which basically means that, they might fly off somewhere to Bali, Thailand, who knows, or Philippines, just run away and never be held to account. And so they had been arrested and already had their first hearing with the judge. And so Ms. Yang and the guy, I think his name is Mr. Young, they both went to the court, but now there's some issue of a so-called human rights, brouhaha over Ms. Yang's choice of attire. First of all, they said that, why did they expose her face? And when they say expose her face, they really meant just her eyes and her forehead, because she was wearing a mask, but yet that was still big. Usually you can wear a hat, And the police keep apparently 2 hats, on standby for, them prisoners if they want to cover their face and protect their private identity when they go through the media photo line. But apparently it looks like she didn't have, her hat. If the police were being really mean and somehow like withholding stuff, that would be the controversy over the human rights issue. But a lot of other observers are saying, like, looks like she chose to not wear a hat. And, there was something about the clipboard, like she wanted to, like, hide herself with a clipboard, but the clipboard had, important police information, so she can't be carrying the clipboard around. And then her, little cute little jumper situation, there was, kind of like another Nipplegate thing going on because it looked like she wasn't wearing a bra. And so they're saying, like, did they withhold her bra? But then other people are saying, like, well, she had a different outfit when she went to the police station immediately prior. So it looks like she changed her own clothes. So it looks like it was her own situation. The reason, I don't know why they're making such a big deal over this issue, but my real K-drama brain is working, and it looks like if it was completely her choice, she wanted to somewhat show her face, and she wanted to somewhat, show a little indentation there, because I wonder if it's a veiled threat. A veiled threat in the sense of, if she is a professional, she might be saying like, look, y'all members in the court, y'all members in the police, y'all members in the establishment, haven't you also gotten an ultrasound from me too? So what I'm saying is that maybe she's trying to say like, look, it's me. I need help. All y'all other, bunny, uncles, not necessarily bunny uncles, but some other uncles, why don't you come help me? That's what it looked like to me. And that's like, if they're making such a big deal out of this, that's how it is playing and registering to me. Why do I bring that up? Because the head judge that is ruling on President Yoon's charges for inciting an insurrection, like now that he's impeached, now he's facing all these criminal charges, and he's being accused, the main judge is being accused of going to the room salon and being treated to, who knows which course, full course, half a course, I don't know what kind of course, at the room salon in order to influence his decision about the former President Yoon, who got impeached. The Democratic Party, which is the party that is against President Yoon, released some photos and said, like, look, Judge, this photo is of you sitting in the room salon in Gangnam that we know of. It has the same like wallpaper and the accessories or whatnot. And the judge is saying like, no, that's not the situation. He said like, I'm a samgyeopsal and soju type of guy, basically saying like, I'm a burgers and beer guy. Nobody's ever treated me to places like this. I don't know, maybe he paid his own bill, or maybe he's lying, or maybe he is telling the truth, or maybe this is an elaborate ruse by the Democratic Party or some operative in there, because you could take that photo of the judge and then go to an interior designer and then just copy it and then just say that, oh, that's a room salon somewhere in Gangnam. But it is a little bit too similar, because these types of situation, once you pull the thread, you realize that yarn has crocheted a lot of other uncles that did not expect to be plopping out of nowhere. And this is perhaps why there was a silence or a kind of a confidentiality agreement that came along with all of that money to this Ms. Yang. And a lawyer that was asked, a Korean lawyer on a news show, was asked saying like, does this actually stand up in court? And he answered it in such a way where it was more of like, does this agreement help in the court case for extortion and blackmail? He didn't really answer whether you can just make an agreement and then, she gotta be quiet. And he said that, like, the existence of the memorandum itself is strong evidence of some kind of extortion, which would help Son Heung-min. Moreover, if a large sum of money, such as 300 million won, was received, there would have been some kind of record of the transaction. And you can see that this memorandum was in some way a form of a contract. If the memorandum included sections on the payment of money and sections stating that the future related information would not be disclosed to the media, then this legal analyst thinks that it could at least be used as evidence to prove the facts of the crime. So he's looking at this in the sense of, like, whether this contract could show evidence of extortion and crime, but he didn't really give his analysis on whether, like, you can, write up this and then she would be in trouble because she may have spoken out about it. And in this type of situation, there may not be a particular law governing sending an ultrasound and demanding money in exchange for keeping quiet. It may go so legally as far as she may have violated this agreement or this contract, but what it starts to trigger in terms of what are the consequences of violating that contract and whether it's enforceable, that's probably still up in the air because they haven't passed a, sketchy blackmail baby shower law, most likely, in Korea that would fit this case neatly. So Son Heung-min is just going back to playing. He had some foot injuries, but he's going back to work and, kicking that ball around and, scoring the goals and, making the fans happy on the pitch. And this is just gonna keep playing out in Korea, and we'll see. We will see how far this blackmail extortion attempt really went when we see the remainder of the evidence. They did confiscate the phones of the two alleged blackmailers. All right, guys, what do you think? And are you a fan of Son Heung-min? And does this change how you see him? Or you think he's, it's a bit of an unfortunate situation? Or, just like, oh, well, what was he doing, outside the football stadium? Put your comments below. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. And we'll see you again next time. Bye-bye.